Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Wynn.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Tom King. I write Batman Bitch, and this is Bat Force Radio.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio. Tonight we are taking another trip beyond Gotham City to visit someone I've looked forward to for some time. So let's hit the round table real quick. We've got Bat Force Tom in California.
It's actually Dan DiDio tonight, but how you doing, Robbie?
Oh, thanks for coming by, Dan. Always appreciate your time. We've got Grandpa Batman in Texas.
Salute.
The Bat Force Times in New York. And I'm Robin Cross in Canada. Okay, tonight's guest is one of the most popular, prolific, and successful creators of the last several years, known for indie books like God Country, Redneck, and Babyteeth, as well as Marvel titles like Venom, Thanos, Absolute Carnage, and Silver Surfer Black. So help us welcome to the show a man who has recently managed to destroy the DC Universe itself from within the pages of his new Thor run, Mr. Donny Cates.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry that I ruined the entire premise of your show because now you guys can't talk about Batman because he's fucking dead.
Oh,
yeah. You canceled James Tynion's Batman run. You canceled Bendis' Superman run. You canceled. Well, but did you also cancel Black Label stuff, or is that out of reach?
Oh, it's all gone, dude. It's all gone.
Damn it.
Fuck it.
Okay. All right.
I can't wait for your hate mail after this.
Well, this is going to clear up our weekends, so I guess that does one thing for us.
Yeah.
But if anyone hasn't read it, there are big things going on in the Thor book. But let's rewind past that a little bit.
Sure.
What was it that made you want to get into comics? Like, what was the part in creating in general? What was the thing that you saw and thought, this is what I want to do?
Oh God, man. I mean, stories aren't that simple. I mean, it's always a million things. Obviously, it's never one thing. I mean, I think I was always into comics. I never really wanted to be a creator though. I was always a retailer. I ran a bunch of shops here in Austin. I don't know. I guess all my shops kind of shut down, and I genuinely could have been a retailer forever. I love doing it. And then when they all shut down, I really wanted to stay in the industry somehow. And yeah, I went back to school. I went to SCAD, which is the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I was going to try and be a penciler. But I found myself in classes with like Jeff Shaw and Trad Moore. So, that was intimidating, obviously. And then I had a writing professor. I had to take a writing class, and I don't know. He kind of took me aside and said that I could be good at that, or that maybe I had a knack for it, and so. I just started trying, and I kind of got the writing bug, and just kind of been going ever since then. I know it sounds. I'm making it sound easier than it was, obviously, but I kind of fell backwards into doing this.
That's awesome. Let me check my notes real quick here. It says, a very respected publication says here, when did you start tracing other artists as they've reported and put as a headline?
I don't even, I know that, what is that, some kind of a Bleeding Cool thing?
Oh, God.
It sounds like something Chip Zdarsky said.
Yeah, that was like a Bleeding Cool article where they put it as like the tagline, and you're like, what the fuck? And you read it, and it's like, oh, he was 5, and he was like...
Oh, yeah, I mean, I grew up as fucking... I don't really understand what Bleeding Cool's agenda is or what their point is, but
Clicks, man.
clicks, baby. Yeah, I guess so.
That's the new commodity these days.
Clicks are king.
I guess so.
Yeah, but there was a
I
funny
think
reason.
I might be making this up, but I think I remember that you interned at Marvel. That's right.
Oh.
I did, yeah, in 2010, 2011 or so. Yeah, I was an editorial intern. I was in the Ultimate office, which is also the Hulk office and stuff like that. And so I was assigned to that office, but once people up there figured out that I could string a sentence together, I was hired out to every other office. So like, if you read any Marvel comic book between 2010 and 2011, I wrote the recap page for it. The previously on the X-Men thing, that was me.
Damn, that's a lot of work.
There's a lot of work, yeah, and that's, a lot of people, the people who hate me online, they like to. A very common accusation is that I only got my job at Marvel because I was an intern. And Marvel's not really in the habit of just hiring interns to write Thor, So, but no, I didn't get my job because I was there at all. In fact, my internship was actually kind of a hindrance to me getting hired there because it took them a very long time for them to see me as anything other than that little intern kid,
Yeah.
But I will say it was a tremendous benefit having worked there and been an intern there for a year, because what it does teach you is the pace that these things need to get put out at, and the kind of intense work that goes into putting these comics out.
Yeah, you recently made I think it was a tweet that you were talking about how after being on this side of comics and making it, being the butcher and making the sausage, like you'll never get that joy of being a reader again, just because you've been on that side of it. And I was kind of like, damn, he's right. Like that must be kind of brutal, but there must be things that kind of like make it worth it for you. Like still, what are the things you think that like?
Well, yeah. What you're referring to is the letter that I wrote in the back of Thor #1, where
that's what it was.
Some of the magic kind of goes away,
Yeah.
My wife worked in Hollywood for 15 years, and so she's the same kind of way with film. Sometime, we'll be watching a movie or something, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, that's incredible," and she's like, "Yeah, I mean, it's a crane shot, and like I know who did that. Like, who gives a shit, And so it happens. It's absolutely a part of it. But it turns into a different kind of magic, when we were children, I should speak for myself. I should say, when I was a child, these were magical artifacts that came down from nowhere that,
right.
There weren't any human names attached to them. It was just, what is Spider-Man going to do this week? How is Batman going to get out of this jam, And then now, there's still a great deal of magic to me because I read Batman and I go, oh, this is that thing that Tom and I were talking about. Oh, I love how Tom pulled this thing off. Like, that's great. Like, obviously I know everything that's happening at DC. I know everything that's happening at Marvel because we're all friends.
Yeah.
But, obviously creator-owned books provide a great deal of like being able to get lost and stuff. But, it can be a drag, absolutely. When you're reading a book and, you can just kind of, every move they're going to make before they make it. You know exactly how the sausage is made. But that being said, it makes it the magic gets better when you read something and you're like, wait, what the fuck are they doing in this? Holy shit. Like, I don't know where the hell you're going with this, and that happens every now and then, like even just being, a professional writer, like by trade, it happens to, you can pretty much ask any writer in the world. They are nauseating to try and watch a movie with because because I can watch 10 minutes of any TV show or any film, and I can tell you how it's going to end, every turn of it, and then when we walk out of it, if you liked a film, I can make you not like that film within 10 minutes, because I'll just strip it down to parts. Be like, well, fuck, I thought I liked that. But I think that's why there's certain shows that that get such acclaim amongst creatives, amongst writers and stuff. Because I remember when Breaking Bad was coming out, and me and all my writer friends were all like, how the fuck is Walt gonna get out of this? What the fuck is happening? It was so well written and very thought out that it fooled us too. And
That's
so
awesome.
but it does take it sounds very, it takes a certain special of newness, to get that magic kind of back up and going.
Is that what you try to do with some of the stuff that you write? You try to come up with something that'll make the reader say, what the fuck? How's this going to end?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it is at the end of the day, that is exactly what my job is. My job is to keep you on the edge of your seat. My job is to, essentially what my job is I am a generator of emotion, right? And so, I've said this before in interviews, but I'll say it here again. If the death of a piece of art is not anger, right? The death of a piece of art is boredom, and so, if you read one of my books and you love it, it makes you laugh or fall in love or any of these things, that's wonderful, and I've done my job. If you throw it across the room and you say, fuck this book, I've also done my job. The only way that I have not done my job is if you read my book and you go, meh, that's about it. And Lord knows I've written some of those too. But yeah, I do quite delight in zigging when everyone thinks I'm gonna zag. I think it's because I am and always have been such a student of comics, and I've grown up reading them, and student of storytelling and all these things, and especially comic book storytelling, which is very unique, that I tend to know, I like to think I know that what people expect out of a comic book, where people think that comic books are going to walk down with certain paths and everything. And one of my favorite things in the world is introducing a plot line and then going on Twitter and seeing everyone on Twitter being very confidently wrong about where they think my book is going.
Yeah. Your Venom run in particular, it's had some of that Breaking Bad-esqueness to it, because we'll have points where things are going so bad for Eddie, and it's so dark that how's Eddie going to get out of this one?
Right. Well, it's something that Dan Slott once said, and he said it to me personally, but he's also said it in interviews. He said one of the he was speaking particularly about writing Spider-Man, where he said that writing Spider-Man is one of the worst jobs in the world, because your job is that you have to make Peter Parker's life miserable. Your main job is to punish your favorite character as hard as humanly possible, and so that's what you got to do. This is how we love these characters. This is how we get to learn about these characters. At the end of the day, Eddie Brock's a little bit more malleable in that he's a very morally ambiguous guy. He's a guy who absolutely tries his damnedest to be a good guy, but falters sometimes, right? So there is a lot of room for growth with Eddie. But you take someone like Peter Parker, or someone like Steve, or Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent. These stories are 80 years, 60 years, 50 years old. And what we're doing with these characters is essentially we are watching the world bend around them. Peter Parker doesn't change. He doesn't. You're not trying to change Peter. You're trying to make Peter's unchangingness change the world around him. And you see that with James Bond, you see that with Indiana Jones, you see that with these kind of archetypical characters. And so what that means, unfortunately, is that you have to dump the entire world on top of them. And the triumph of these characters is not will they survive, but how they will survive. And so it's a challenge, to put someone up against a wall in a medium where you've seen them at their worst and against the world time and time again. But it sure is fun, and I delight in being cruel.
The part that's fun with Eddie is because he's so self-loathing that when he's in one of those predicaments, he can kind of go, well, I'm a scumbag anyway, so I'll just do this not so good thing because it'll get the job done.
Well, yeah, that's what I like about him. I think that what's very interesting about Eddie is that if you were to tally up, not just my run, but really any of the run in the mid to late 2000s, if you were to look at all the deeds that Eddie Brock has actually done, he is cumulatively a good guy. He is thoroughly on the side of angels, but to him, I don't think that he thinks he's a good enough guy to consider himself a good guy. And so oftentimes he will just say, fuck it, and jump off into the void because he thinks that the world is better without him, which I think is a kind of depressed, manic, suicidal superhero who is essentially a shadow made of teeth, is just my particular cup of tea.
You were talking about how you don't necessarily have to, like with Peter Parker, rather, you don't have to change the character. You change what's around him or influence it. You did kind of change part of Thor coming off of Jason Aaron and his fucking long ass run, and you stepping in. Number one issue already, just boom, was fucking awesome. What you did with Galactus. So was that like something that you had brewing? Was it like an idea that came to you rather quickly? Because that's kind of left field out of nowhere, and it's such a genius idea.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, again, though, I disagree with you. I don't think that I've changed the fundamental of who Thor is. Thor has always been, there's this notion of Thor was always an arrogant, foolhardy prince. What would make you think that he would stop being that now that he has a crown? Right. He's still learning how to be this thing that he's been learning how to be since he first came around, giving, I mean, essentially what I've done is like, if you were to make Peter Parker agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's still Peter. He's just in a new role. And again, you change the world around a character and see how hard you can push them while maintaining how true they are. As to the idea of it, well, I was actually way back in 2017. I had put out a book called God Country, and that was in January of 2017. And our then editor-in-chief, Axel Alonso, read that book, and even was that 4 years ago, Jason was already starting to plant seeds for wrapping down his Thor run. And so when Axel read it, they hired me to do Thanos, and then they hired me to do Doctor Strange. And I think I had written one issue of Thanos and one issue of Doctor Strange. And I mean, they hadn't even been drawn yet. They hadn't even come out yet when Axel gave me my first exclusive contract. And he gave me my exclusive contract with the express reasoning of he wanted me to still be at Marvel when Jason was done because they were going to give me Thor. And so I've known since about 2017 that I was on deck for Thor, which is wonderful because Jason and I are friends. And so Jason and I have been able to, I've known how his run ended for a very long time, and it's given me a lot of time to kind of outline and plan out this huge, crazy story that we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg for. The Devourer King, which is the name of this first arc, is essentially an extended. While it is very much its own arc and its own structure and its own bad guy with its own consequences and challenges and everything, it is very much an arc that you'll be going back to as I write Thor for the next years and years and years. You'll be coming back to this arc to see the seeds that I've been planting. So I'm able to be. I mean, little things like the hammer is already getting heavier. Little things like other things that people haven't even picked up on yet that I'll be getting back to. So yeah, the Herald of Galactus thing is I mean, I know it sounds odd because it's a huge story. It's a small piece of a very larger puzzle.
Where do you come up with this shit, man?
Mm.
That's what I follow a lot of writers on Twitter, and I like to interact with guys like you because I'm fascinated with how you continually, come up with fresh ideas, not with just one book, but with several books.
Is that word prolific? Is that word prolific?
I really.
Like I said, I've been reading these books since I was a little kid, and I like to unwind at the end of the night by reading Marvel handbooks. And like the idea for, like for instance, the idea for this Galactus arc, it didn't start out as a Thor story. It didn't really start off as a story for any particular character, really. But I was reading about Galactus's origin, and I was reading about how any handbook, including the Wikipedias or anything online, they go back to the origin of Galactus, which actually took place in an issue of Thor, and they talk about how his world was destroyed by an unknown force, and then he was the only survivor. And it hit me. I was like, wait, by an unknown force? And I was like, have we never done that? Have we never explained what that thing was? And so I woke up the next day and I called Tom Brevoort, who's our senior editor, and also the guy who knows more about comics than any other human being on Earth. And I asked him, I said, hey, is it entirely possible that in the 80 years this company has been around, we've never touched on that? And he was like, no. And I was like, can I do it? And he was like, yeah, figure it out. Let's do it.
Sweet.
And so here we are. That's where that comes from. It's just,
it's a very cool thing to find such an old thread, a thread that goes back so far that you get to be the first person to pull on.
Well, that's kind of the fun, right? Is that speaking about Venom, I took over Venom when Venom turned 30 years old. The month that my first issue, that mine and Ryan Stegman, I should say, his first issue came out, Venom was 30 years old. But the gift that is that book is that even though the character is 30 years old, there was so much lore that has been left undiscovered. And so being able to go in there and say, well, where do the symbiotes come from? Do they have their own belief structure? Do they have a god? Do they have, what are the questions that are unanswered? And then being able to go in there and just flesh things out. I mean, it really is just, I think the greatest gift that I could give to anybody who wanted to be at Marvel or DC is just to be curious. Curiosity will always, kind of take you down routes to find great stories. I think that for a while in modern comics and DC and Marvel comics, we had a lot of writers and creators who were just telling stories about stories, meaning they wanted to come and they wanted to just do their version of, whatever, pick something, Age of Apocalypse. They were just retelling stories that they loved as a kid, and that I don't have much of an interest in that. I like to be an additive writer. I want people to, when I leave a book, to have to go and update their Wikipedia. I want to leave a little piece behind. I want to add to the canon rather than just kind of, run in place.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes it really exciting too. You never know when you're going to jump into one of your issues, and at the beginning of the issue, you think you know one thing about the character's history or where that character comes from, and by the end of that issue, you know something completely different.
Well, that's what's entertaining to me as a reader too, and I try and write books that I would want to read. And I think a lot about J. Michael Straczynski's run on Amazing Spider-Man, which every arc of that JMS is introducing some new concept, and some of it didn't work, but a lot of it worked just phenomenally. But every single arc, he was swinging for the fences. I mean, the first arc of JMS's run introduces the idea of Morlun, who is this elder god, totem killing guy, and he's this new character, and we don't know anything about him. And so if you read a story about Spider-Man and the villain is Doc Ock, per se. Well, we've all read stories about Doc Ock. We all kind of know the general shape of how that's going to turn out. He's going to beat him. He's going to go to jail or whatever. And certainly, there's been wonderful stories told about that. But on the inverse of that, when you introduce a character like Morlun, you introduce a new character, a new bad guy. All of a sudden, the reader is as clueless as Spider-Man is. And all of a sudden, the reader is saying, "Wait, who the fuck is this guy? Is this guy just gonna beat Spider-Man to death in the street? Like, who the fuck is this guy?" And that's what he does, by the way. Morlun just beats Spider-Man to death in the street, and it comes out of nowhere, and it's so scary. And so I think being an additive writer gives you that same kind of feeling. That's what we were talking about earlier with that magic. Because there was all a period in our lives where reading a story about Spider-Man fighting Doc Ock was the first time you ever saw that guy, and he was a mystery. And so much of comic books works because of the element of surprise. We're a monthly format, and so we have to leave you off on these big cliffhangers. And it's one of the greatest tools in our arsenal is wait and see until next month. And so when you introduce new ideas and new things, I feel like it heightens that sense of magic.
Have you ever got any pushback from Marvel or any of your editors about creating new characters?
No. I think if it's done, I've been very lucky. I don't get a lot of. I think that there really is a great misconception about how Marvel is run. I can't speak for DC. I've never worked for DC, but at Marvel, there is no editorial interference in so much as like editorial telling you to write this or whatever that. I remember when I wrote Death of the Inhumans, and everyone online was just like, "Oh, well, I guess since Fox has the X-Men or that Marvel has the X-Men back, we're gonna get rid of the Inhumans." I was like, "No, I just had a cool story I wanted to pitch, and they let me do it." It has nothing to do with that at all. Like, Disney never comes down off the mountain. No one ever bothers us. An editor has never told me what to write. I mean, I get in trouble sometimes because I want to put, I want to have characters say, "God damn it," or like, "Fuck you," but like, we can't do those things. But like, but no, creating a new character has never been a problem. I think Marvel, Marvel is the house of ideas. Marvel is an IP generator. We're a factory. The company exists because a bunch of fucking lunatics got together and created a bunch of wild new characters. Lest we forget, there's an entire fucking $1 billion franchise based on a dude who came out when Home Improvement was on the air. The Infinity Gauntlet came out in like '97. Like, Marvel is very happy to have new things to play with.
I'm so glad you mentioned Home Improvement. I was having a conversation with some guys at work about that show, and that's one of my favorite all-time TV series.
Well, it's just good, wholesome fun, sir.
Yeah, that's right. Was he on coke then, or was that after?
He was never on coke. He got caught selling. I don't know. You know what's weird? I know this because I read his biography for some fucking reason.
You jumped right into that.
I did. Well, obviously he was on coke at some point, but he got caught selling some coke when he was like in college or some shit. Like he was. Let's all fucking relax.
I mean, who hasn't done that before, right?
I mean, I'm not going to cast the first stone.
Back to the talking about, having lack of editorial pushback. When it comes to something like destroying the DC universe in a Thor comic, what kind of conversation is there as far as, okay, how much can we get away with showing? Like, we can have this guy that's a black or a blue and red blur flying through the sky and a bit of the Daily Planet, but how much can we not show?
First of all, it's all in good fun. And I know how much I can get away with. Nick Klein knows how much he can get away with. And, I got in so much fucking trouble on Twitter when those preview pages came out. But, it's not like DC hasn't ever taken their fair shots. In fact, there's one of my favorite gags that Bendis ever did when he was still at Marvel. He had this issue of, oh God, off the top of my head, I forget what it is, but some character is universe hopping. And in one panel, they stop in a world and you can see the Daily Planet's thing out there, and there's like a red streak in the air, and the character comments that this world smells terrible, and they jump out of it and stuff. So the thing is like people were like, oh, you're being so disrespectful. I was just like, you know what? Go back and read any Stan Lee letters column, like any old DC Marvel. Like we used to pick fun at each other all the time. Yeah. And it's fun, it's healthy. But you know what's funny? I turned that script in. I never talked to my editor. I never told him that I was going to do it. I turned the script in. No one ever said anything about it at all. And Nick turned pages in, and then it came out. Still haven't heard anything from Marvel. I was doing when the preview pages came out, I was actually doing a signing in Orange County in Vegas with Jim Lee. So I was seated next to Jim Lee, and I was like kind of laughing at Twitter, and he was like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, oh, dude, Twitter's mad at me. And he's like, why? And I was like, well, I killed your entire company. And he was like, you did? He was like, you did what? And I handed him my phone, and he read the pages, and he goes, and he was like, oh, that's great. That's hilarious. And I was like, right? Like, see, it's funny. Like, people were like, you're being so disrespectful. I'm like, Scott Snyder's one of my best friends. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, and for every
best friend too. He's our best friend.
And for every instance that there's something that could be considered taking a shot, there's something that is not as well. Like, a couple months ago, there was a Thor issue that was showing the history of people who have wielded Mjolnir.
Right, and then Superman in it.
Yeah, showed Superman holding it, showed Wonder Woman holding it, and that's a reference, and it wasn't a shot. You don't have to get upset about it.
One of my favorite jokes just of all time in Marvel is in Runaways, written by Brian K. Vaughan. The kids, they go to New York for the first time ever, and Molly, who's the little girl, she goes down this alleyway, and Spider-Man drops down in front of her. He's like hanging off of a web upside down, and Molly looks up at him, and she goes, "Oh my God, you're," and Spider-Man goes, "That's right, I'm Batman." And it's fucking great. And then there's this scene in Mark Waid and Chris Samnee's Daredevil.
Yes.
Where Daredevil swings by, this guy goes, "I love you, Red Batman."
Yeah.
I fucking love that kind of shit. I don't know. I just remember being a kid and seeing little nods to each other and stuff. There's that phenomenal little scene in Spawn in one of it's either the first or second trade, maybe the second trade, where there's this prison and there's like all these hands hanging out of the prison, and they're so clearly like the Hulk and Superman and Batman and stuff like that. And I always just used to love that kind of stuff. So I knew that Thor #2, we needed to demonstrate the power of this bad guy, of this force that we're facing. And I was like, well, what better way? What better way? Awesome. And also, people gloss over the fact that I do a clear homage to Tom King's Mr. Miracle in there. I say that the avatar of their death is a stoned-faced Omega, the one who is, which is so clearly me talking about Darkseid is. And so, like, I remember when I got the art in for it, I texted it to Tom, and Tom was like, "Oh my god, that's fucking great." So like we're all friends, we're all fans of each other, but sometimes they gotta die.
How dare you, Mr. Fate?
I know.
Now you had you mentioned God Country earlier, and I believe you had sold movie rights or something, signed some agreement for an adaptation of some sort, and that led to you having a fun visit at the DC office.
Yeah. So well, we're making that movie. God Country is being adapted by Legendary Pictures, and I wrote the screenplay for it, which was an extremely fun process, which I enjoyed very much and would like to continue to do more of if possible. I was in there and I was signing the agreement for it. I was signing the contract, and they said, "Well, hey, have you been downstairs yet?" And I was like, "Well, what's downstairs?" And they were like, "DC Comics." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, I had no idea they were in the same building, let alone the floor down, And so Jamie Rich, editor over there, who's been a buddy of mine for a while, I texted Jamie and I was like, "Hey man, for whatever reason, I'm in your building. Can I come down? Can I see the office?" And he was like, "Yeah, man, sure." And so I went down there, and for those of you out in the world who have never seen the DC offices, they look like what Bart Simpson thought Mad Magazine looked like. Yeah. They are fucking insane.
I've been there. It's amazing.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's so cool. I mean, they have like, Fortress of Solitude parts and parts that look like Gotham, and Meanwhile, the Marvel offices look like the office from The Office. But I would argue that Marvel passes those savings along to me. So it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So anyway, I was down there, and this was probably a year and a half ago, 2 years, and I was in the process of renegotiating my first exclusive with Marvel. And so I was, I think it was kind of in the wind that I was somewhat between exclusives. And so Jamie kind of shows me around the office and introduced me to everybody. He shows me all the cool stuff. And then right at the end, he says, "Hey, do you have a second? Can you pop into this room really quick?" And I was like, yeah, man, for sure. And I go in there, and they assembled in this room is Dan DiDio, Bob Harris, Jim Lee, and Brian Cunningham. I want to say, I could be wrong about that. And I walk in there, and I kind of shake everybody's hands, and then they close the door behind me. And I'm like, oh.
Have a seat, Donny. Why don't you come over here and have a seat at the table?
I was like, oh, this is that. Okay. And before I always hesitate when I tell this story because it wasn't meeting behind closed doors, but I adore Dan and Bob and Jim. I mean, Jim and we were talking on the phone today. I mean, I love all these guys, and I've told them that I tell this story, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm speaking out of school. But we talked for a while, and they made me a really cool offer. They wanted me to write Constantine and Green Lantern Corps. I would be writing Green Lantern Corps next to Grant's Green Lantern.
The Green Lantern,
so
yeah.
like, yeah, right. But that was all. I was going to be writing those books until Batman became free, because they were very interested in having me follow Tom.
Goddamn.
So it was wonderful, and the best part of the meeting was the Dio goes, I hear a rumor that you have like a 5-year Batman story in your back pocket. And I was like, yeah, actually I do. It's something I've been working on for a really long time. And he kind of gestures to the room and he goes, well, we're all here.
Well,
why don't you lay it down for us there, Daddy?
And I said, well, not for free, Dan. And Jim Lee looks over him and he goes, I love this kid. And it was like one of my favorite moments. And, ultimately, here's the thing. I love the guys over there. Dan and I have been out to coffee and dinner and stuff at various shows and stuff. And it wasn't anything personal that I didn't end up signing. I wasn't done at Marvel. I'm still not done. My contract right now with Marvel goes through 2023, and I have plans that extend all the way until then. So, the thing is just that, I'm not going anywhere, hopefully, and Batman's not going anywhere.
Yeah, right.
And so, it's absolutely on my to-do list is to someday. I mean, my name is DC.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually, the first tattoo that I got illegally when I was like 17, I have the old DC bullet tattooed on my shoulder.
Nice.
So like I'm a fan. I definitely want to do it someday, but for right now, Excelsior.
Yeah, it's a good problem for fans to have, because I would argue that by not taking that spot at DC, you stepped into probably the best times over at Marvel so far, with all the stuff that you've been putting out right now. And then, like you said, there's always a chance you might come over and give some awesome stories over to DC, but you're killing it right now, man. I don't. How the fuck do you have time to do like everything that you're doing? I don't understand that. Like, because your name is literally on so many books. How do you like balance your time and finish everything?
Oh, I'm just late on everything all the time. That is more true than I want it to be, but not as true as I'm making it out to be. I actually quite pride myself on being on time. I've only been working professionally. Actually, this year will be my 10th year. A lot of people think that I started like 3 years ago, because that's just when all of you people started reading my work.
Well,
what do you mean, you people?
Well, that's just like musicians. All these people that people think that they're overnight successes. They didn't see the 10 years that they were grinding before.
There is no such thing as an overnight success. Everyone's a 10-year overnight success, except for Tom King. He actually just came out of nowhere. He's a cheater. But how do I balance it all? I have a deep respect for discipline and for hard work, and I have a deep respect for artists and the kind of work that they do, and I'm acutely aware of the idea that if I don't turn in a script, that there's about six to seven people down the assembly line that can't pay their rent if I don't turn that script in. And so there is absolutely no time. I don't budget any room in my brain for writer's block or artistic bullshit. Something has to get done, because even though it is a fun job and is an artistic job, it is a fucking job, and a lot of people depend on me. And I take that very seriously. I mean, at the end of the day, I was a cook for 10 years. I've done construction. I've done every shitty job you can imagine. At the end of the day, I wake up whenever the fuck I want. I stay up as late as I want to. And in the meantime, the least that's asked of me is to sit around in my fucking sweatpants and write Spider-Man comics. Like, it's not, the shit is not that critical. You know, I take my job incredibly seriously, and I also respect fans. I respect all of you guys so much, because I am asking you to spend as much as you do every month on a Netflix subscription for 20 pages of art. And I, from being a retailer, the thing that I learned the most from that was this idea that every script that I put out gets 3 checks before it gets sent to an artist. The first one is for story, and make sure I hit all my story points. Let's make sure that I'm on track. The second one is for grammar and spelling, and really I don't even really do that one that much because that's why we have editors. But the third one is there enough comic book in this comic book? Is this worth $4? You know, and if it's not, I rewrite it. You know, and I don't know that I could really pin down what a what you would call like what the Donny Cates brand is, but I like to think that if there is one, you get your money's worth when you read a book with my name on it. And so balancing all these books and everything, I'm just trying to put good books out, man. I'm just trying to help retailers by giving them good product. You know, I mean, when you're a drug dealer, okay, look, how do you become a great drug kingpin, right? Well, you don't go out on the corner and sell dime bags, right? What you do is
you don't get high on your own supply. That's what you do.
That's right. What you do to become a good drug kingpin is you hire really good guys, and then you give them quality product to go out there and then to sell to their customers. I am in the business of providing quality content so that I can not only make sure that all my coworkers, all my collaborators and stuff can pay their rent and also increase their status, but also make sure that retailers and stuff can keep their lights on and flourish and thrive, because I literally can't do my job without either of those things. So I just, to answer your question, I just fucking get up and I do the work, you know, because I know that every day that I want to sleep in and not write an issue, I know that there's thousands of retailers that are getting up early and going and turning on those lights. And I know that there's hundreds of thousands of comic book fans that are waking up and going to their actual real jobs, earning money that they would very much like to spend on something that I write. So it's just that I just get up and do the work, man.
Do you have a minimum page per day type of quota?
Yeah, I'd like to write at least 10 pages a day. So I like to do 10 pages a day for 2 days in a row, and then take a day to outline. Because I do write so many monthly books that the worst thing that could happen to me is, I wake up and I'm writing an issue of Venom or Thor, and I just don't know what happens in that issue, which is a nightmare. It never happens, because I tend to plan years and years and years and years out. So yeah, 2 days, 10 pages a day, and then 1 day outlining.
You mentioned giving people their money worth on books that you're putting out. I work in a retail shop, and I do not hear anyone saying that they are unhappy or dissatisfied with the product that you're giving them.
Well, that's good to hear, man. That is the goal. I mean, we have a lot to compete with out there, and I think that comic books can provide things that other mediums can't. I think that is kind of why I tend to write the way that I write. I try and write everything as if it's an epic, like as if it's even some random issue of Venom or Silver Surfer. I'm gonna write it as if it's Civil War, or if it's the Infinity Gauntlet, because why not? I mean, we can do that, So I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed to work with my friends and I have a lot of help. Most, if not every single person that I work with, I consider a dear friend. And so every day I'm on the phone with Ryan Stegman, or I'm on the phone with Nick Klein, or, I live with, one of my favorite artists, my wife, Megan. We're doing a book together at Image right now. So, I'm sitting on the couch with her while she's drawing, and, we're going back and forth, and she's helping me with scripts and stuff like that. So, I'm just very fortunate that I'm surrounded by people who are all into it, all into the cause,
Yeah, we just talked about balancing all of that workload of everything that you're putting out, and now just in the last couple days, God Hates Masks was announced coming up on Image. Can you talk about that at all?
Well, I can tell you right away, it's not called God Hates Masks. That was Bleeding Cool's headline. The name
that's the
project,
hashtag that keeps going around too.
Oh, is it? Yeah, that's not the.
Yeah.
That's not the name of the book. That is a screenshot. It's a slogan that's on a billboard. And you'll understand why later. But no, that is an Image book that I'm doing with Jeff Shaw, who I did God Country with, and Thanos and Guardians of the Galaxy, and a couple other books. I cannot tell you what the name of that book is yet. I'll start to put out more art the next few months or so. We'll announce it here soon. I will say that one of the things that I pride myself on is that I am 100% full of shit. But I tend to tell the truth when it comes to retailers and fans. When I get on Twitter and I say, hey guys, this is gonna be really fucking big and really important, increase your orders or whatever, I have never one time been bullshitting. If I promise you that this is a big thing, it's gonna be a big thing, and I'll say it here now. This book that I'm doing with Jeff Shaw, that I guess you guys are all calling God Hates Mask, which is not what it's called, is by far the biggest thing that I've ever done in comics, and something that people are really, really, really going to want to order a lot of. And I'm not just saying that because I will make a lot of money when you do so, although that is an added benefit. It is unlike anything that you guys have ever seen, and unlike anything that Image has ever produced. So I would definitely keep my eyes peeled for that.
So if anybody wants to get ahead of the game and put this on your file, just ask your shop to put on your file Donny Cates' book that is not called God Hates Masks.
You will. I promise you this. When it is announced, it will be hard to not know about it.
Now, is this related to your recent tweet that you had tweeted about receiving the craziest news of your comic writing career?
No, that's a whole different thing.
Man, you're busy.
I am a busy boy, and I am. I wish you could see me right now because I'm beaming ear to ear because that little piece of news. I'll tell you now, is a Marvel thing. It's a new thing that I'm going to be doing with someone that I'm very, very excited to work with, and on a project that I am very excited to work on. So, but you won't. I really shouldn't have even. CB texted me the next day, and he was like, you're gonna drive people fucking insane with that tweet, because he was like, because we're not gonna be able to announce that thing for a long time. And I was like, I know, I'm just fucking excited. So I promise when it gets announced way later this year, if even this year, I know I'm being a dick, I will make sure and point at it and go, hey, this is that thing I was talking about.
Yeah. Nice.
You can come back on the podcast and announce it, and we'll break the news here if you want.
As long as you don't mind Mickey Mouse putting a sniper rifle to your head. Sure.
He'll come back here the next time he's going to kill the DC universe.
True. I do have one question, circling back to home improvement. Are you a Heidi guy or a Lisa?
Now hold on, was because it was Pamela Anderson first for like the first season, and then it turned to Heidi. Isn't that right?
Yeah. Pamela was Lisa.
Pamela was Lisa. She was first, and then it was Heidi, right?
Right.
I think I'm a Heidi guy, man.
I think so too.
Heidi
I think
aged pretty well, boy.
Yeah, I think I think what you're asking is a Ginger and Marianne kind of a question, and I think I'm always gonna be a Marianne kind of a fella.
Oh, girl next door, nice.
Yeah.
Respect.
Well, that's a good way to end it. Highly honed neighbors.
I think we nailed it. I think that this is not my show, but if it were my show, I would put a new rule in that you must ask every guest that question right at the end, apropos of fucking nothing.
Well, we usually do a lightning round at the end where we ask goofy questions, and we have a tradition where the guest leaves a question for the next guest.
You live in Austin. I live in Dallas. What's your favorite barbecue place in Austin?
Cooper's.
Cooper's.
There used to be. Listen, everyone wants to say Franklin's, but as an Austinite, I ain't waiting in line for fucking barbecue in Texas.
Hell no.
I don't give a fuck. Now, Cooper's is phenomenal, and they used to have their only location was out in Llano, but now they just built one that's on Congress, just inside of our beautiful capital. So go to Cooper's. Follow-up question for you: where in Dallas are you from?
I actually live in North Richland Hills, which is closer to Fort Worth, but I work and I'm all over the place. So
I'm from Garland.
Okay, respect.
Yeah, respect. All right.
With that barbecue, what's your favorite side? Do you go for the fried okra, the macaroni and cheese? What do you get?
I like greens. I like green beans. Not a huge coleslaw guy. I do like a good grilled corn. And yeah, I mean, you got to fuck around with the mac and cheese for sure. I tell you what, depending on the place, I like a good side of beans. And Cooper's has their own like complimentary little bean bar, and they got some dope beans.
Dope.
They do. No, they're good, man. They're good ass beans for sure.
And what's your drink of choice, sir?
Well, boy, going to Cooper's. I'm a Dr. Pepper guy most of the time, or a nice iced tea. Nice iced tea is good. I like a good. If I'm feeling sassy, I'll get an Arnold Palmer. You know.
All right, cool. Hey, we're coming up on Oscar week.
I could give a fuck.
Okay. Well, which do you like better, horror movies or comedies?
Oh man, I don't know.
Porn.
I'm not really. I love movies. I hate award shows and all that horse shit.
Yeah,
they're just like it would be like if Willy Wonka did a fucking award show for best candy and nerds won. It's all just a fucking advertisement for their own little fucking jerk off contest. I really don't give a shit.
It's like a big elephant walk. But
and nothing wins or loses and lessens my enjoyment or heightens my enjoyment of any of these things. I really genuine unless God Country gets nominated, and then I'll be there with bells on.
And vote for Donny Cates for Eisner's anytime you get a chance.
Sure. Yeah, sure. If I ever get nominated for one, sure. Yeah. Then I'll give a shit about award shows for sure. I do enjoy a good horror film, but only because my spooky wife is a horror nut. I write a lot of really scary stuff, but I really don't do well with horror. I get very scared. I'm a very big lightweight when it comes to horror. So I haven't seen a lot of like horror stuff. I get and I don't know. I have opinions on things, but this is a lightning round.
New York style pizza or Chicago deep dish pizza?
Well, only one is pizza. The other one is pizza casserole. So
that's the usual.
It's like saying, which ice cream do you like? Do you like better, ice cream or popsicles? It doesn't make any sense. New York pizza is pizza. The other one is fucking like lasagna.
Left Twix or right Twix?
Man, fucking. I mean, that's a non. I mean.
You just throw all that shit in your mouth.
You're trying to fucking like Blade Runner see if I'm a fucking android because if you just turn it around and one's the other one. Like if it's the left one, you turn around, it's the right one.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. You're not gonna narc me out as a Cylon. Next question.
Okay, if you could have dinner with one human being that has lived throughout history, dead or alive, who would it be?
Stan Lee.
Did Dustin remember to leave a question, or did we end up not
No,
going back to
I
it?
think we could.
Yeah.
I think you forgot.
Okay, so we didn't get one from Dustin Nguyen, but I want to throw out an old favorite from a previous guest.
Sure.
Joey Lawrence was on a while back, and he left a really deep question. He asked, if you could live the life of a millionaire but only live to be 60, or live to be 100 but you live the life of a pauper, what would you choose?
A pill popper?
Yes.
If I could live the life of a million. Okay, well, hold on. There's a lot of variables in here. Okay. Am I a millionaire? Okay, so I'm 30. I'm 35 right now, right? And so if I'm gonna get that extra fucking 25 years, but does my $1 million status stay no matter how much I spend? Am I a millionaire no matter what? Like if
let's say yes.
Let's say you don't even have to think about it.
Like
you
if
got
I
Oprah
buy
money.
like if I buy $1 million yacht, do I check my bank account and I have $1 million again?
Yeah, like you're Oprah rich until you're 60.
Or I'm a pauper, but I live forever?
Till 100.
So you're asking if I want to be fucking desolate and decrepit, or want to have a baller 25 years? What kind of a stupid question is this?
That's right.
Come on, guys. That's ridiculous.
Okay, what is the
That's one of my
best?
favorite ones.
What's the best piece of advice you have ever received, and who gave it to you?
Best piece of advice, and who gave it to me? God. Fuck, man. That's tough. You know, my dad was always fond of saying, it's not a piece of advice, it's a thing that I've always kept with me in my head. That when there's like tough times, you're facing something that's kind of rough or anything, you're facing a mountain of like of shit in front of you. My dad was always fond of this saying of the only way out is through. And I've always liked that. That like there's no amount of sitting around and talking about it or whining about it. The only way you're gonna get through it is not by going around it, but by going through it. And I've always kind of kept that in my head.
I like that one. It kind of reminds me of the saying, "If you're going through hell, keep going," or something like that. So
yeah,
that's pretty good one.
Yeah, there's also I've always liked this line. Forget where it came from, but I can't attribute it to anybody. But it was if you find yourself looking for a helping hand, you'll find one at the end of your own goddamn wrist.
Nice. That's good.
And on that note, that's a good one.
All right, now I'm gonna leave you guys with a question.
Now I'll give you the benefit of knowing who it's for, if this helps. It will be for Freddie Williams.
Okay. All right. Now listen, there's a little bit of a history of this one. Now I have my own podcast. Stegman and his amazing friends is a even though I'm the fucking co-host of it, it's called Stegman and his amazing friends. I suppose I am that amazing friend. It's Ryan Stegman and I's podcast. You can find it on iTunes. It's everywhere. And we have a recurring thing on our show where people write in questions to us through Twitter or our Discord. And I'm going to give you guys the greatest single question that a human being has ever asked, and I'm going to give it to your show. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna read it exactly how it was written, word for word. Are you ready? Okay. If there were two people stranded on the moon, and one of them killed the other one with a rock, would that be fucked up? That's the whole question. It has confounded us for almost a year now.
As in Dwayne Johnson? Kill him with like a Dwayne.
No, it's just a fucking rock. And listen, I'll let you draw your own. We had a million questions, and the thing is, you'll never get any more information than that. And it is in this man's opinion one of the most powerful pieces of like combination of words that have ever been put together in the human language. If there were two people on the moon stranded and one killed the other one with a rock, would that be fucked up? Someone wrote us that question, and I think it's just the best question ever fucking asked of all time. So I will leave that with you guys because it's the gift that, I mean, it's better than Hemingway's like baby shoes for sale, never worn. I think that it is a profound piece of poetry.
I have an answer for that.
Well, here's my answer: is that I don't know that there is a proper answer, because here's the thing, and here's what makes it so engaging and so powerful. We don't know the variables. Now, a big question is, I'm about to blow your fucking minds, did they bring that rock or did they find it on the moon? That changes everything.
That's
right?
Premeditation.
Exactly. If they brought it there, that's really fucked up. If they found it there, then something might have happened. One of the guys maybe had a plot to blow up the moon. Maybe one of the guys. Now, I know your initial reaction is going to be, well, yeah, dude, that's pretty categorically fucked up. But what if one of them was Hitler? Like, there's variables to it, and that's what makes it so poetic, is because we'll never know. We'll never know the right answer.
Mike, what if
you, as Mr. Comic Writer, know that, one of those variables is also intent. And it could be, was this one motherfucker just wanting to kill the other person to steal their oxygen tank, or was it actually a mercy killing, saying, you know what, I will give you my oxygen tank. Just put me out of my misery. I don't want to do this anymore. Hit me with a rock.
My thing is,
I know, and that's what I'm saying, is that it sounds like a silly question, but the more you think about it, it's unanswerable, and it's unbelievably deep and profound. I just adore it. It's my favorite thing I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, because I think if they kill the guy with Dwayne Johnson, it's fucked up. But if they kill him with the DVD movie with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage, then it might not be as fucked up. That's my answer.
Or more fucked up. We'll never know.
Here's something I actually was thinking about this today, because I was reading a Twitter exchange with Brian Hill, and he was saying, I don't like these end of the world stories, these apocalyptic end of the world stories. It's been done before, and I was just like, that's right. But what if an evil bad guy threatened to blow up the moon, knowing the ecological fallout that would happen? That'd be a lot of power if he had a bomb to blow up the moon.
Right. Well, and then if you killed that motherfucker with a rock, it's not that fucked up.
There you go. Boom.
That's what I'm saying. Now I have to cut you off right there, because legally I'm not allowed to hear stories because I'll end up stealing it. But that is my gift to you. And here's the thing: you guys are gonna laugh at me and get off of this, but I swear to God, you're gonna be talking about this with guests for the rest of your life. So. I leave my gypsy curse upon you.
It's a perfect ending.
Hey Gotham dwellers, make sure to stop everything right now and subscribe to Bat Force Radio. We can be found on iTunes and SoundCloud. Don't miss out. Guaranteed to satisfy all of your Batman and DC needs.